There's a saying, most people only look up when they're flat on their backs. It's proved in the Bible time and again. And this phrase, at their wits' end, is a perfect description for where people find Jesus, or rather where he finds them. You see, a person who has run out of ideas and hope, they are said to be at their wits' end. But that is precisely where the Lord meets them. Let me read Psalm 107 from verse 23, and as I do so, it's worth knowing that storms are symbols of chaos and disorder and trouble in life. But that is where the Lord shows up. Psalm 107 from verse 23. Some went out on the sea in ships. They were merchants on the mighty waters. They saw the works of the Lord, his wonderful deeds in the deep. For he spoke and stirred up a tempest that lifted high the waves. They mounted up to the heavens and went down to the depths. In their peril, their courage melted away. They reeled, they reeled and staggered like drunkards. They were at their wits' end. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress. He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed. They were glad when it grew calm, and he guided them to their desired haven. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them exalt him in the assembly of the people and praise him in the council of the elders. This psalm, written, of course, back in the Old Testament, seems to be such a clear prophecy of something that actually happens in the life of Jesus. In Mark chapter 4, you can read about Jesus. He's asleep in the storm. And yet when he rises up and says, "Quiet, be still," to the storm, so he brings them to their desired haven, and they know who he is. Do you know that story in Mark chapter 4? The disciples, they are led by hardened fishermen. They set sail, they're confident in their years of experience on the Sea of Galilee. The wind gets up, and we can imagine that as the wind begins to get up, they sort of steel themselves and think, right, this is what we trained for, we're hardened fishermen, we know how to get through this. And then the waves start crashing into the boat, and they try to bail themselves out, and they think, we're still okay, but they start to sink. And it's this sort of idea of, as the storm gets worse and worse, you can imagine they still determined to handle this storm in their own strength. Until at some point they realize the truth. They realize that they are out of their depth. They, in the words of Psalm 107, they reel and stagger like drunk men. They are at their wits' end. And then they cry out to the Lord in their trouble. That's what Psalm 107 verse 28 says. When they're at their wits' end, then they cry out. That word "then" is very revealing. The Lord is not their first port of call. He's actually their last port of call when they try everything else. But the Lord, who is there asleep in the boat, he doesn't hold this against them. Immediately, he does deliver them out of their distress, and he makes the storm be still, and the waves of the sea are hushed, just like Psalm 107 says. So Jesus simply speaks to the wind and the waves, and he brings instant calm. And we're being taught a lesson here. The disciples are not equal to the storm, but they find that Jesus is infinitely superior to the storm. When he proves it, he leaves his people staggered and breathless. And in Mark chapter 4, they ask, "Who is this man? Even the wind and the waves obey him." Well, with Psalm 107 before us, the answer to the disciples' question is obvious. Here is the Lord. Here is the maker of heaven and earth. And here is the ultimate opportunity that is opened up to us in all of our storms. When we are at our wits' end, you know what? We can know him. We can call out to him. Let me put it this way. Did the disciples know Jesus before that hurricane hit? Yeah, they did, to a degree. But how much more did they know him after the hurricane? With awe and wonder, they cry out, "Who is this man?" Have you been brought to the end of yourself? Brought to your wits' end? Don't waste that experience. In storms, you have a unique opportunity to know Jesus. In fact, right here, right now, in the storm, there's a deep sense in which we only begin to know Jesus when we are at our wits' end.